Good morning, beautiful. It's great to see you. It's lovely to be out here. Oh, look, I got to show you this. Look in the tree. Hopefully you can see right in the crook of the branch, a little bit camouflaged. If it just moves again, there you go. It's one of the neighbour's cats. I hope you can see that. It's right in the middle of the screen above the tree fern. They like to climb. Okay, so just in case you're thinking, what is she boobling on about? Let me show you something you're bound to see. Look at this. This is coriander in flower, and I just find it gorgeous. Good morning, Mike. Look at that. It's like lace. Whoever needs a lace that you crochet, though I love crocheted lace, this is nature's lace, and it's glorious. And look, there are seeds, and they're also glorious. I just love this plant. And, well, there's going to be no shortage of it. It's going to be an absolute invasion. But it's easy to pull out, and you can eat it. Good morning, Sunchia. And look, I haven't pruned my roses because last Saturday I was busy on the other side of the garden. I had a big prune. But we have here the Sweetheart Rose. Oh my God, that is something I really need to sort out back there. I've been ignoring it, but I must not let that run to seed or that will be a disaster of environmental proportions. Here is the fuchsia. It looks great to me, but in the sunshine it doesn't look so good. So let me be a shade. There you go, now you can see it. If only the camera can sort out what to focus on. There you are. Look at that beautiful purple blue on the dangling part of the flower. I love that about fuchsias. That fuchsia purple is gorgeous. And we've got some lovely rose hips coming on here. You can't really see, but I always leave these on, the Compassion Rose, because they stay right through the winter and they're colourful. Vasco, good morning! So here it is, and here are the autumn. They're not the autumn crocuses, those will be coming up soon. This is Japanese anemones, and they're thriving, as they do in the slightly cooler weather. And look at the detail there, I just love that. Oh yeah, tiny dances, totally. And I told you last week this was coming. Here's the willow gentian. Isn't it fabulous? I've got to try and get some focus on this. There you go. It's a beautiful blue flower. And on my screen it actually looks like the same colour that I'm seeing. So that is good because blues often don't come out so well on screen. Cameras have different ways of dealing with blues, and sometimes it's quite problematic. So the willow gentian is happening. There you are. You can see it's quite a big plant. It's grown over the years. I actually need to cut it in half and give half to somebody. But anyway, there it is. And we still have so much going on, including this beautiful smell on the Luculia bush. You can see the flowers, you can see the detail, which I really enjoy. And it's just this cloud of pink and white because the anemones grow up through it, and I think that's perfect. It's quite a sticky bush. Not really, I mean, it's got its own kind of grace, but it's much nicer with the anemones growing through it. You can see at the bottom, it's just this sort of big open thing. So it holds up the anemones and they look great together. And there's more of those there. Absolute clouds of butterflies. Yeah, it is a bit wow. You're right, Vasco, it is. And here we have the Commelina, which is a bit hard to really see until I get close to it. Look at that. I just love this plant. I picked it up in a garden store at least 20, if not 30 years ago as a special because it was, you know, looking miserable in a plastic bag. And I've managed to keep it going ever since. And last year, it made really lots and lots of viable seeds. And there are so many of these babies now, so it's going to be a bit interesting. But there'll be clouds of blue in the rose bed, and I'm quite excited about that. So there you go. And we have, yeah, see, I really haven't done the deadheading, but there's Maria Callas. Come on, camera, sort the focus out. There you go. I love that. I mean, the fractal shape of the rose is hard to go by. So there's a lot going on. Even though it's sporadic and kind of bits and piecey, there's always a lot going on in the garden at this time of the year. Late roses, telling me that I haven't deadheaded them, but you know, there it is. And the beginning of the absolute explosion of the white nereines. We got 30 spikes, flower spikes on this plant last year, so we'll be counting them again this year. Victor, good morning. So, before I forget, that neural net's getting better at this. Notices. Monday, I always like to remind you that if you have any pain points, any niggles, any things that are upsetting you or pissing you off, or that you're just sitting with and thinking, gee, I quite like some thoughts about that, some insights, some suggestions, whatever, do remember to tell me. Good morning, Julian! Because I might be able to be useful. So, that's my Monday notice. And I don't know, I'm just feeling grateful for all of you. So thank you for being with me in time, live, or out of time. I appreciate you showing up, because what we create together is entirely different to what we would create if you weren't here. So thank you. Just gratitude. Now, something that one of you mentioned last week, and it was in the context of, I can't remember what, actually, but the thing that struck me and which I decided to speak about today is this whole thing of negative self-talk, which just sort of comes up and it gets loud and it goes round and round and round, and you just get stuck in it. And, you know, just can't move out of this. What's the deal? How do I do this? And all these negative thoughts, you know, the inner critic. And I know I've spoken about this before and said, well, these are the default mode networks. I think I need to explain what is a default mode network. Default mode networks. Good morning, Andrew. Lovely to see you. Default mode networks are networks of neurons in our brains that are so hardwired that they run without us even knowing that they're running. They just do it. Oh, bless you, Victor. Thank you. Isn't it good when we feel gratitude? It's a good feeling. So they run. The only way that a network gets hardwired and becomes automatic is because whether we were small and it was just something we were told over and over again, or whether something happened in our lives and we then had to tell the story again and again and again, that became our an identity that XYZ had happened, or we have a sickness or a failure or a loss or whatever it is, you've thought it and felt it and thought it and felt it and done it and been it and everything else for so often and so long that it has simply become who you are and you don't even know that you're doing it. An example of that, which I recognised relatively recently, in fact last week, was, gee, I am really used to feeling flat and neutral, and in fact kind of dead inside. Which you would think, what? I light up when I'm doing what I love to do. Roland, good morning. I light up when I'm with you. I light up when I'm working with people. But I realised, and it was like, oh my goodness, I'm really not very good at being happy. I am automatically on shutdown, don't feel much mode. Well, I better change that, right? This is a default mode network. It's something that has been me for so long I hadn't even noticed it. I further noticed, and this is something I have noticed for many years but only understood recently, that when I decided to go and feel something else, it did not feel good. It did not feel good to say, I'm going to feel happy now. It felt weird. It felt positively wrong. And the only reason that I could overcome that and practice it anyway is because I've been at this game for long enough to know that I can actually think and then feel greater than I am used to thinking and feeling. And it's taken me, 2 years at least to get good at that. However long it's been. I'm not going to calculate the time right now or I'll lose it. No, nearly 2 years. It'll be 2 years in April since I started consistently doing the work that I do, the meditation work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, which has completely transformed me. And when I started, and before I started learning all this stuff, these people who say, oh, make yourself feel happy. It was like, no, I can't do that. It feels wrong. It doesn't feel true. It doesn't feel real to me. And that was because my default mode network said to me, that's not who you are. You don't feel elevated and happy. You feel flat and neutral and level. And that's who you are. That's how it is. And that's why for so long, peace and ease were my goals. Because happy was out of reach. Forget it. And so, and we do these things in layers, right? So last week, this is something that really became clear to me, and I thought, right, I've got to shift this. And it actually happened because I noticed, again, something that's been happening for decades. Because I'm getting better at these elevated emotions, I noticed something that happened practically every day, which kicked me right out of the emotions of my future, straight back into the emotions of my past. And I finally saw it with new eyes, and I thought, this has to stop. This must stop. Why? Because there are physical conditions going on in my body that I want to heal. And if I keep on thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same feelings and reacting to the same stimuli with the same pre-programmed default mode network response, I'm going to keep sending the same chemical information to my cells and nothing's going to change. That's quite an imperative when you understand it like that. And in case you think this only applies to physical healing, it applies just as much to allowing the love of your life to find you, to having purposeful work, to having financial abundance, to anything that you think you want in order to feel a certain way. It's you that's creating it, so you've got to change you first and then it can find you. Now, I didn't realise still how much I have been broadcasting, inhabiting, being this default mode network self which was shut down. Alicia! Lovely to see you! Yes. And I'll give you a big clue. The thing that's really started to shift stuff for me has been finally being able to open my heart. And I have been opening my heart since Joe released the Go Love 20. In fact, You Inspire Me was where I started. He released 2 little meditations which he wanted people to have a pandemic of love instead of a pandemic of fear. It was back in March last year. And I got those, like everybody who knew about them. I couldn't face doing Go Love 20. I couldn't face opening my heart to anybody. I was like, oh God, no, I can't do that. But then he brought out the mutation, and I started with You Inspire Me and went from there. And I'm now getting pretty good at opening my heart. Now, how do I know that I've opened my heart? I get hot. Energy starts to move through my body, up into my head, and sometimes my whole body heats up. When your heart opens, energy moves. For a lot of people, they start to cry because the energy goes from the heart into the throat, up into the brain, and you sort of choke up and go, oh, I got to cry. Like I said, the moment when my heart opens, I quite often cry. It's just what happens because it's got to come and stick. It's got to release all the frozenness. So, default mode networks, unconscious, did not know this was me, have been chipping away at it over the months and years. Default mode networks, you don't know it's who you are. So those negative thoughts and negative self-talk are those default mode networks, those unconscious thoughts that you don't even realise you're thinking and the feelings that go with them. They are kind of hardwired in your body, and I won't try to explain it, but trust me, when those thoughts, the thing your mother said to you many times when you were small, when that goes round in your head, that is your body being your mind, because the body can send signals to the brain and say, I am used to feeling this way. Fire up that thought so I can feel that familiar feeling. That is literally what is going on. If you're not feeling worthless enough, your body will do it for you so that it gets what it chemically expects. That is the fact. This is how it works. Those are your default mode networks, and that is also why it's so challenging when your brain is going, or with whatever it is, to stop it because it's in your body, right? And like I said, when my heart opens, stuff releases out of my body. I get hot, it goes up into my brain, emotions come out, whatever. And I know to just relax with that and let it happen, because it's a healing. Every time it happens, it's some kind of healing and elevation, letting go. So, I didn't mean to spend that much time explaining that, but it's kind of important because, I think to understand what's going on, how it functions, and why it's so challenging is helpful. So when those things come up, that's what's going on. That's why it's so challenging. And all the same, that thought of, and this is something my mother said to me many times when I was small, because of where she was at. She didn't even know, because probably she felt this. She said, "You're a nuisance. You're a nuisance." And I can still hear it in my head, but it's lost its charge because the pain's gone. And I believed that. And I really believed that. And I was, and this is only recent, it's really changed. I noticed myself when I'm driving, and it was always this feeling of I'm in the way and people won't look out for me and they won't take care, and I'm just in the way and they'll run me over if I'm in the way. Because I'm a nuisance, I'm in the way. And I had to catch myself, and I remember the day that I was driving and thinking, no, it's easy and I feel comfortable when I'm driving. And it was like a war zone inside my head. Which leads me to the thing, the solution, right? You have this thing, you have these words, you have that feeling, thought, feeling, stimulus, response. You actually have to decide with a thoughtful process, what thought do I want to think, which I did. I drive easily and comfortably. That was what I decided. And you have to decide what feeling you want to feel. And the feeling you want to feel might not come for a while, but you got to make a choice. And this is important, that when that thought you're in the way, they're going to run you over. They don't care if you don't get your timing right. They won't slow down for you. They'll clip you, whatever it is. No. And this was actually what I was running a little while ago. I am worthy to make a mistake. I am worthy to get it wrong. I am worthy to get in the way. I am worthy to irritate you and still feel loved. Still be loved. That was something I ran for a few days because I realised this was precisely what I wasn't feeling. If I irritated anybody, whether it was, I really screwed up or just them having a problem, it was like, oh my God, I'm just the worst person on the planet. I had to rewire that. I had to actually tackle it, and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel easy at all. It moves a lot faster for me now because I've gotten to a place in my meditation practice where I can shift stuff fast. I know how, I know what to do, and I trust the process, right? I trust me to be able to move through things like this. So, that aside, the first thing you have to do is realise that those intrusive thoughts, that's why they're so rugged, because they're hardwired, they're in your neurology, in your chemistry, they're in your body. You have to know what you want to think instead, and you have to know what you want to feel instead. And then what happens is that every time that nasty thought comes up and you notice it, you then have a choice to at least think the other thought. Even if you don't yet believe it, even if you don't yet feel it. Remember, there's a whole bunch of chemistry and neurology going on that says, nah, that's not true. But if you keep on firing the new thought whenever the old one comes up, the old one comes up and it immediately diverts you to the new one. So that's the first thing. Old one means new one's going to be fired because you are willfully going to say, no, I am worthy to make a mistake and still feel loved. I am worthy to get in the way and still feel loved. As in, no, I'm not a nuisance. I'm a human being. I can make mistakes and still be worthy. I had to work that out. And synchronistically, in different ways, in my meditations, but also with my eyes open in my life, the universe finds ways to get through to me that I'm worthy and I'm loved because I'm making the choice to think the different thought and even attempt after a while to feel the different feeling. What would it feel like if I didn't feel like every person in a car anywhere near me on the road is thinking, oh shit, there's that bloody car in the way of me? Which is really pretty much the thought that was going on in my head that I hadn't barely noticed. I felt it, But it was normal. It was just, I've got to get, nobody cares about me on the road. They're just going to run me over. Like they have no sense of self-preservation, and it's not going to hurt them if they do. Hello, good morning. Yes, everybody is enough. But until we know it for ourselves, whatever we really truly feel about ourselves is the truth. And that's the default mode networks. So when they run and when you have those negative thoughts and when they're intrusive and they're loud, they get louder the more you start to change them, because the body naturally resists change. It says, hang on a minute, you're not sending me unworthiness chemicals anymore. But I want unworthiness chemicals. I'm used to unworthiness chemicals. I feel safe with unworthiness chemicals. You want me to feel what? That's literally what's going on at a biochemical level. And you've got to recondition your body to a new mind. To quote Joe Dispenza, those are his words, and it's true. Your body has to get used to you feeling differently. Jen, good morning! And thinking differently. And it can be very, very challenging to think a greater thought and feel a greater feeling than what you are used to thinking and feeling. And I just want to say, I understand that. But if you do understand that and you realise that the thought you don't like and the feeling you don't like can be a trigger to propel you to think the new thought that you do want, even though you don't believe it, and to attempt to have a different feeling, to shift the needle from here to here. Not from here to here, that'll come like from here to here. Just shift the needle a little bit and say, oh shit, this is not how I want to feel. Now when was the last time I felt even faintly a little bit better than this? Oh, okay, let me just remember that. And you won't always do it, and you won't always succeed. And that's not the point. The point is, first, that you became aware. Second, that you had a new option lined up inside you. And third, that you tried. Because in that noticing and recognizing the thing you want to be different, and in attempting to change it, you are firing a new thought in your brain, and you are attempting to change the chemistry in your body. And if you keep doing that, you will succeed. I don't know how long it's going to take. I can't guarantee that, because everyone is different. And how long have you been, like me, conditioning your body to that feeling? I was conditioned as a child. 50 years? So, it might take me a little bit more than a day or a week or even a month. Or who is it worth spending a year for me to stop feeling unworthy? Hell yes. And there's so many times during that period when you think, oh, this isn't working, it's not happening, I can't do it. And of course, the moment I'm thinking that, I'm back into feeling unworthy and like it's never going to happen. Oh God, I'm out of time. But you get the idea. You have to understand enough what you're doing that when it doesn't appear to be working, you know that it is, because you're firing and wiring a different thought and a different feeling, and your body's just got to get used to it, and so have you. So, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much for joining with me, sharing with me my rave. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Big love. Bye-bye.